She's a keen Saints fan. She's flown up from, she's actually got the train up from London for the evening, having been working through the night. So please welcome Sky Sports presenter Jo Wilson to do the raffle.
Anyway, step across here, Jo. So, you were working last night into the wee smoyers, was it?
Yes, I was indeed. Finished at about 1:30, so not too bad, but up at 7 for the train.
And some people might say, why on earth are you making that journey all the way up here on your day off, but you're a St Johnstone fan? Why?
Well, I was brought up in Perth, so it's really my dad and my brother to blame. My dad used to work for the Bank of Scotland when it sponsored the Scottish Premier League, so him and my brother used to always go to the games, and I used to always moan, why aren't you taking me? And eventually convinced them to take me along. So yeah, I had my first game was early 90s. It was a draw against Motherwell, which I remember because it snowed, so it actually got abandoned.
Oh, nice one.
So that was my first experience at McDermott Park. But yeah, I've grown up a St Johnstone fan.
And you were saying that you had to make the pilgrimage up to Glasgow for the certain game against Dundee United?
Yes, absolutely. So that was actually, unfortunately, the last game. Well, not unfortunately, but it was the last game I was able to come up for, just with working most weekends. I did manage to get the weekend off for that great weekend in May 2014 with my brother, my cousin, and yeah, it was just a really special moment to come as a fan rather than for work as well, which was just, it was really nice to enjoy it with the city of Perth. I'll never forget the day after and the parade through the city and things, just the atmosphere. I've never seen Perth like that. I mean, I'm sure you were all a part of it as well. It was just incredible.
And looking back down memory lane or the current day, is there any players in particular that you're an admirer of?
Now, you're kind of stitching me up here a little bit because I said it's a bit embarrassing when you're talking about players that are here. And I said, I'm coming to this trying to be professional, but at the same time remembering back to when I was a 10-year-old fan. So, growing up, Alan Main was always my favourite player. My brother used to always say, but Jo, you can't have a goalkeeper as your favourite player. No offence, goalkeepers. You just can't. You need to change your mind. Like, you can't have a goalkeeper as your favourite player. But no, I was adamant. Alan Main was my favourite St Johnstone player. I did an interview last year with The Sun about St Johnstone. And in that I said Chris Miller was my favourite player at the moment. And I know he's getting on a bit now. I understand he had a birthday this week. Happy birthday! But yeah, I just think you've got a great squad at the moment. But whenever Chris plays, he just makes the team kind of tick, and I think he encapsulates what a St Johnstone player should be.
It's quite obvious you've been in London all season. I haven't seen him finish a game yet. Anyway, at Sky Sports, there's obviously all the glamorous guests coming and going, and there was a big signing last summer, obviously, in Thierry Henry. I mean, what's it like working with somebody of that magnitude in the game of football?
It's great, actually, and I mean, I used to say I interviewed the American basketball team a couple of years ago, and for me that was a huge moment. I'm a big basketball fan, played basketball, but then meeting Thierry Henry, I mean, he's an absolute superstar. But he's amazing. He's very down to earth and he knows the game. He talks really well of the game. And there was a nice story a couple of weeks ago. We actually did a Thierry Henry special where he was on set with us for a couple of hours. And he was chatting on air about, what defines a big club or a small club. And he was getting really frustrated. He was like, there's all these teams in England that are described as big clubs. But what is a big club? A big club, you need to have won trophies. You have to have something to show for it. There are big clubs. They're not big clubs. They haven't won anything. We went into a commercial break and we were just chit-chatting off air. And because it was the first time I'd really met him, he was like, what team do you support? And I said, St Johnstone. And he kind of looked. He looked at me and he said, big club or small club? I went, well, we've got a Scottish Cup in our cabinet. And he went, big club. So that was a really nice moment, actually.
Well, if they're a big club in Thierry Henry's book, that's good enough for me. Ladies and gentlemen, Jo Wilson. Thanks very much.
I'd just like to say thank you very much for having me as well. It's been a great night, and let the celebrations continue. So thank you very much for having me.
Thank you very much, Jo.